we are going to continue looking at love and what this love, but obviously one of the things that I keep saying from the promise, I was looking at the sticker that I found in my book, which said that the better comes after, in a marriage, if couples can realize that the better comes after the worst, then they would hang on.
Okay.
Let me read it. Yeah, let me read it. Let me read it the way it said. It says, more marriages might survive if the partners realize that sometimes the better comes after the worst.
Yeah, I think that's so true.
Yes.
I think that's so true. I was just thinking about that in light of what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay.
I was just thinking about, because we've spent some time talking about the people that are actually getting into marriage, or
Yeah.
we've been talking about the point where people fall in love,
Yeah.
and then they get into marriage. Obviously, the things that we've talked about obviously would resonate with the people that have been married for, say, 30 years, 40 years.
And Maureen, they are 30
But
years.
yeah, but I particularly, I thought about the people that have been married for quite a considerable amount of time. And I think the thing that crossed my mind, thinking about our own relationship, the thing that crossed my mind was that I looked back at where we are coming from, and the sort of challenges that we faced, and how we have navigated those challenges.
Yes.
After 21 years.
Yes.
And we're here now, and I'm thinking, whoa, it feels a lot more easier now than it was.
Yes.
In those days.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because obviously there is so much that we've learned. We've pushed each other, we've kicked each other, we've learned from each other, we've studied each other. So we've gone through all this process. So the whole of 21 years has actually not been a waste.
No.
It was an investment in each one of our lives
To become the better.
to become better. So I think when you say that, it's actually quite true.
Yeah.
That more marriages might survive if the partners realize that sometimes the better comes after the worst.
That's right. Yes.
Or we can put it in another way. The longer you stay in your marriage, if you are working on it, the better it will get.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the longer you stay into it, the better it will get. So it's just an encouragement to those that probably have just been married and they maybe just 6 months in it or 12 months in it, and it feels really like, can I really survive in this?
Yes,
Can I manage?
yeah, true.
Will I really make it
Yeah.
to the next, the next year?
The
Are we going to
anniversary.
celebrate the second anniversary?
Yeah.
Will it ever happen? I think we can encourage such people and such a person and say, if you stay a little bit longer in it, obviously working on it,
Yeah.
both of you talking and making adjustments,
Yeah.
it will get better and it will get easier
Yeah.
as we go along.
Yeah. True. Very true.
So that's really true.
Welcome, Natalie. Oh, good to see you, Frida.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Frederick, and everyone who has joined in. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, lovely to have you.
Yeah, I think we also talked about some weeks back to say what was the first thing that you realized that this was for worse and this was for better. So I just wanted to encourage the people probably at that time that felt, oh my God, I remember the worst, to say, don't worry, hang in there. Out of the worst, the better will come.
Yeah.
So keep going, keep marching on. God is watching over our marriages and is perfecting everything that concerns our marriages, and it's a sweet thing. And we know that's why the enemy is always fighting the marriage, because he knows that this is the covenant or the institute of marriage that he wants to use to expand his kingdom where two people are, because he wants to start with two people, where one can chase 1,000 and two can chase 10,000. So when there is two people already, he knows that the enemy knows that that's a bombshell to him. So I hand over to you.
It does definitely get better the longer you stay in there. I think I don't know whether those statistics are correct, but they normally say if you can survive the first 5 years of marriage, then you are in for it. So that's not to say if you are a year, 2 years, or then you won't be able to survive.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, yeah, definitely.
It's a journey that you have to take. But the more you work on it, if you talk to someone who's been in it for 50 years and you ask them what's the secret, they will just tell you the same thing that you probably would have known in the first year.
Yeah.
But then they tell it to you as being the secret of, they will tell you, being tolerant. But if you are 1 year into your marriage, being tolerant to your spouse, you're thinking, well, really?
Yes, questions are allowed, Natalie. We are happy to receive the questions. Welcome, our brother Brian Banda.
We do take questions, so feel free at any stage. You can ask, get clarification. We are observing. We are following. We are trying to see what's being said there, and then we can respond. And we also do encourage people to just interact, obviously through questions. And also, if someone makes a proposal or someone asks a question, we do encourage, because this is a conversation. We call it marriage and relationship conversation. So we do encourage people to participate and say what they think or what their experience is, because it's not just our experience.
No.
Other people have had different experiences, the things that we've never actually experienced. Some people may actually have an experience of it, and then they are in a better position to explain those sorts of things. So feel free and ask any questions, any suggestions, and God helping us, we should be able to at least provide some sort of direction to that. So awesome. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Those of you that are on, thank you so much.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in.
Thank you so much for coming on board. Obviously, my name is Adrian, and that's Mwango for those that might be watching this later. So we do this conversation every Friday. So so without really spending much of the time, thank you for coming. We will quickly get into our discussion. Did you want to bring in, because normally we do give ourselves a challenge at the beginning and then at the end. So probably to think about.
I would have loved to come this to the end, but maybe let me throw it to you. There is a question to say, how did your parents in your home, your parents where you're coming from or where you are now, express their affection towards you or toward each other as mom and dad? And how has that impacted your expression of affection in your relationship? So how did your parents express their affection towards you or towards themselves, mom and dad, and you observed and you saw them? And how has that impacted your expression of affection in your marriage or in your relationship? So the way your parents related, how did they express their affection to you? Or how did you see them express affection to each other? And how has that affected your relationship today? I think what we are looking at today, which is love, towards the end, we are going to look at why it's so important that those of us who are parents now should express the love that is going to help even when we grow older in our adult life, how to relate healthily with each other. So maybe let's get into the topic.
That's good. So we do have a question there. If you can just make a note of it. We will definitely come back to it. So we've seen the question, and we will definitely come back to it. So quickly, we just wanted to...
Welcome, Mehdi. Welcome, Mehdi. Welcome. Brother Samuel, thank you.
Pastor Sam. Is that Pastor Sam? I can see there.
It's Pastor Samuel. Pastor Sam. Pastor.
Thanks very much for coming on board. So last week we began talking about the unconditional love. That's the one that we began talking about last week, and I think we dealt with a number of things. So I'll just do a quick run through so that we can all just get to where we should be before we proceed. So we were asking the question. I think we've asked a number of questions. So the first question that we asked earlier was when you said you loved your spouse at the altar, what did you mean?
Yeah.
So we dealt with that, and we obviously had to distinguish between feelings and what real love is at that point. So we dealt with that. And then the second question that we asked last week was, how do you, or why did you love? I know that sounds a little bit wayward, but obviously we went into talking about what that meant. So what we were trying to arrive at was to try and get all of us to begin to think about our choices when we are looking for a spouse, a life partner, and what we go through. So those of us that are in it, we've been married for 21 years, those that have been married for 14 years, those that have been married for 30 years. 1 year. We've all gone through a stage where we look at this pool of people. It could be at church, it could be at work, it could be just the whole country.
Yeah.
You have looked at all these people, and then you finally zeroed in on one, and then you pick this one, and then you walk them to the altar, or they walk you to the altar, and then you begin to exchange vows. So at that point where you're exchanging vows, now you're saying, I love you, I will love you, or whatever. So what we were trying to do was to try and break that down and begin to look at what we normally consider when we are making those decisions.
Yes.
So we looked at things like, did we consider the character? Did we consider the possessions and everything?
Yeah.
And then we came to ask now, okay, if we were looking at the possessions or anything, if by some reason those things are taken away, will you still claim that you love this person? And if you will still say you love this person, if you considered what they had, but once it's gone and you love them, then it means that you never really loved them for the things that they brought. You love them for who they were.
Yeah.
So we, looked at that, and obviously we looked at how God loves us. So, the Bible tells us that, God loved us even before we were sinners. We were sinners. So when we were sinners, God still loved us.
Yes.
And He sent His Son to come and die for us. So we said, okay, so does God love us because we are good, we are lovable, we are lovely? The answer is no.
No.
He loves us because He is love.
Yeah.
2, He has chosen to love us.
That's right.
He has made a decision by Himself to love us, and He's committed to that decision which He has made to love us.
Yeah.
So He's decided, He's chosen us, He's decided, and He's committed.
Yes.
And therefore, God's love for us has nothing to do with us.
No.
But it has everything to do with Him.
Yes.
And this is the point we are making, and this is what we were trying to drive at. So we were saying, love in its purest form, which is unconditional love, is not dependent on the object of love. I.e., it's not dependent, in the case of God and us, it's not dependent on us.
No.
It's the object of God's love. It's dependent on God's choice, God's decision, and God's commitment to us.
Yes.
So that's what we were establishing. And this is, I think, the way we were trying to answer the question, how do you love your spouse? Or why do you love your spouse?
Yes.
So we love our spouses, one, because, we have fallen in love with them. We have chosen them amongst thousands of people. We have decided to spend time with them, and we are committed to them.
Yes.
So that's why we have decided to love them. So whatever happens to them, whatever is taken away from them, as long as they're there, we will still love them.
Yes.
And we are committed to loving them. So we wanted to try and now take it a little bit further today and just talk about what that love, which we say we have, the purest form of love that we have loved this person with. What does it look like?
Yes.
When I say I love you, and my love for you is not dependent on you.
Yeah.
It's dependent on me. So your love for me is not dependent on you. Sorry, the other way around. So my love for you is not dependent on you. It's dependent on me, who has decided to love you.
Yes.
Your love for me is not dependent on me. It's dependent on you, who has decided to love me.
Yeah.
So both of us here have a responsibility to love one another.
That's right.
Both of us have a responsibility to love one another. And we said, obviously, we can, we can try and take away things like there are roles when you get married, obviously. There are roles that, there are certain things that God has commanded. So God has commanded the man to love the wife.
Yes.
The wife, obviously, to respect the husband, to submit to the husband, and obviously that's a whole different conversation.
One unto another.
Yeah, so that's a different conversation, not for today, but we will dive into that at a later stage.
Yes.
So that's different, but the love we're talking about is the foundation.
The foundation
which
of every
is
marriage.
Which is the purest form of love, which is the foundation,
That's
and which
right.
is the basic
That's right.
sort of love which can expressed in marriage and also with other people and so on and so forth. So that's what we were talking about. So we wanted to talk about what this love looks like. So if I am saying to you that I love you and my love for you is not dependent on you but dependent on me. So how do you know that I am loving you the right way?
Yeah. Unconditionally.
Unconditionally, yes. So it's unconditional. So we have taken away. So last week we talked about all the things that come with it. So we've taken those things away. They are not there. So now we are talking about the purest form of love.
Yes.
And so I'm saying, I love you. And we said love is a verb. It's an action word.
Yes.
So love is incomplete if not acted upon, in other words.
That's right.
So it must be given. For God so loved the world that he gave.
That's right.
So the only way you express love is by giving it.
Yes, and also you cannot give if you haven't received.
Yes.
And this is why last week we gave an opportunity to anyone who has not yet received the love of God, which he freely gives to everyone, so that we can be able now to give that love in the way that God gives us. So we are still appealing, if someone hasn't yet received the love of God, which is, for God so loved the world that he gave, you can just receive that love and you will be able to give the same love. So yeah, that's a reminder.
Yeah, so just to to get everyone, because I know sometimes when you are talking these things, in your mind they are making sense, but obviously you are trying to communicate it to to everyone else. So so that we just all understand. So we are saying we are talking about the purest form of love, which is unconditional. And that love is not dependent on the object of love. It's dependent on the person loving.
The subject.
Yes. Now, if I am loving you, I should know how to express that love to you.
And I should receive
and
it unconditionally.
You should know that I am giving it to you the right way.
That's right.
Unconditionally. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
If it does, just do a thumbs up so that we can move on. If it doesn't make any sense, just do it, and then we'll know it hasn't made sense. Then we will put it in another way.
Yeah.
But if we get a thumbs up, then we know, okay, it's making sense, and then we can move forward. So that's what we are talking about. So I am giving this love. It's unconditional. And she's receiving it, and she knows that I am giving it the right way.
Yes.
So the question is, what does this unconditional love look like?
Yes. So those of us watching and are married, or maybe even in a relationship, how do you know? What are some of the qualities that can make you know that I am receiving love unconditionally from my partner? As we go along, as we talk about it, just keep writing something. How do you know? What are some of the qualities, or how could you feel that the love I've received is unconditional? So what is something that would tell you this is unconditional love?
Yeah,
so just go on and type.
The pointers. Maybe, what are some of the pointers that would indicate to you that I am receiving pure love from my spouse, so to speak, unconditional love. And that sort of love is the sort of love that, thank you very much. Yeah, so we've got one, so it's making sense. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about. So what are some of the pointers? So what we're trying to do today is to try and break it down, the pointers or the qualities, or the way that one would know whether they are giving it or receiving it the right way. So we have broken them into two parts.
Yeah.
So we will call unconditional love.
Yeah.
So one quality we'll call it unconditional. So if someone is giving it to you a certain way, we are calling it unconditional. It's unconditional.
Yeah.
If it's coming another way, it's conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have 3 lots of conditional, unconditional, 3 lots of groups of qualities.
Yeah.
So the first one is got conditional and unconditional love in it. The second one is got conditional and unconditional love. The third one is conditional and so we are trying to compare and contrast.
That's right. Yeah.
So the first one that we want to talk about is when love is unconditional.
Yeah.
It must be.
It's acceptance.
It must be accepting.
Yeah, accepting. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be accepting. So let's talk a little bit more about that one. So this provides a solid foundation in a relationship.
Yeah, acceptance. Acceptance provides a solid foundation in a relationship. When I feel that, when I felt, even when we just came together, I felt accepted. Although obviously sometimes I felt the other one, but I felt accepted in that you did not start wanting me to change. Like what I liked, you did not want to start wanting me to change, to like what you liked. You accepted me. You embraced me.
Yeah.
So I felt the acceptance. So the unconditional love accepts the other person. The individuality of the person. Your individual person is accepted.
Yeah.
So that is accepting. Yeah.
So unconditional love looks like being accepting or accepting your spouse.
Yeah.
And by accepting, we are saying this person that you have accepted, one, they are adequate.
Yeah.
So they are coming complete.
Yes.
They haven't got anything missing. So they are complete.
Yeah.
And they are also suitable.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are suitable and they are complete.
Yeah.
And there isn't anything that really needs to be changed about them.
Yes.
Although we say that in a general sense of the word, so which we can still break down because obviously someone might ask and say, oh no, what if this person has got certain habits I don't like, and that's now something that we have to work through.
Later.
That's now, I mean, we are all work in progress. There's no one who is perfect.
That's right.
No one is perfect as long as we are on this side of heaven. No one is perfect. So we are all work in progress. We are all being developed.
Yeah.
The Lord is changing us every day from one degree to the next degree. So we are all in the process of, but when you find a spouse and you have to love them unconditionally, you need to accept that they are adequate and they are suitable.
Yes, and you validate them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you give validity to their individuality, what sort of a person they are.
Yeah.
Everything about them, you love it.
That's
and you take it as it is.
And you embrace it.
You embrace it. You accept them. So that is what unconditional love looks like. Okay, let's talk about what conditional love then.
Yeah, the conditional love,
Yeah. So unconditional love would look like, here is a person that has come, and then you have embraced them, like you are a year or so in your marriage, and then you begin to see a few things, and then you begin to reject.
I think the other side, which is conditional, is also a sure foundation in a marriage for sources of conflict and frustration.
Yeah.
Because what normally happens is if you give conditional love, you are not just going to embrace the person with their different way of dressing, different way of talking, different way of doing things. You are not going to embrace them like that. So it becomes conditional in that you have this mental picture. You try to imagine who they should be instead of who they are, the individual person, the way they are. So you try and imagine them in a different way. And you start rejecting the bits that you don't like. So that is now a conditional love where you don't embrace the difference and you don't give the person chance to see how those differences can work together. So you are now trying to to reject the things that you don't like about them. And rejection is failing to accept the differences, failing to embrace the other person, failing to acknowledge that this is suitable for me and they're adequate. So it's the opposite of acceptance. So you reject them. So that is conditional love. And the unconditional love, we say it accepts. It embraces.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that this is the suitable person for me and they're adequate.
Yeah, they're adequate, they are complete. So rejection, so this is where you fail to accept the spouse as they are, and this may be have formed an opinion about them, or have due to unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, this is where unrealistic expectations
so you have been expecting this person to be a certain way, and then they turn out to be slightly different, and now you assume the responsibility of now trying to change them.
Yeah, that's right.
So now what normally tends to happen is that now this person has got to prove to you that they are worth.
They are adequate.
They are adequate.
And they are suitable.
So you put so much pressure on them to now begin to live the way that they are not. So they now begin to try and impress you by trying to, well, obviously they will know some of the things you say, oh no, why not this, or why not that, or, why don't you cook like my mom, or this and that, making those funny or those, comments. And then someone now begins to live up to what you, so they are not being themselves.
Like even some examples of where we have had chances where I want you to be the way I am. Maybe I want you to be more outgoing. I want you to be talking more. And that also is received for you like rejection. Because I am not accepting that you're different from me. And I should just, the love I should have for you is to accept your individuality and embrace it.
Yes.
So that's the two. Acceptance is
Yes.
unconditional.
And
then the rejection is the conditional love.
Conditional love.
Yes, because we have this mental idealization of who this person should be. And anything short of that, we want to change them. That is conditional love.